I'm making sourdough bread. This is Chad Robertson's recipe from Tartine. I've modified it a little bit to fit my schedule and to make about a 1-pound loaf, but otherwise it's his recipe. This is for 1 loaf, so I'm going to start with 45 grams of water. Doesn't have to be this precise, but alright, that's good enough. I'm going to start with, doesn't have to be precise measurement, but dollop of starter. That's a big dollop. The more you add, the quicker this step will go. That's actually kind of a lot, but that's alright. Just really generally just do like a generous tablespoon of starter. You want to get that all mixed into the water. And we're going to add 45 grams of a mixture of whole wheat flour and bread flour. So there's my whole wheat. And bread flour. And again, this obviously doesn't have to be too precise. That's good, that's fine. Like that. Get this mixed up. This part is called the levain. It's essentially just increasing the volume of your starter. It's about 6:30 in the morning now, so I'll let this go anywhere from 6 to 10 hours depending on how warm it is and the activity of your starter. So I'm going to cover this and I'll see you in about 6 or 7 hours. Okay, it's been 7 hours. I had some errands to run, so I'm a little late getting back to this, but you can see how much it's risen. I know it's really done if I tap the bowl. I don't know if you can see that from here, but it all starts to deflate, so I know it's done everything it can. It's got no more. So we're moving on to the final dough ingredients. So that's going to be 315 grams of water added to this. And like we did with the starter, first you want to get that all mixed in and dispersed. I sneeze. Okay, now we're going to add 50 grams of whole wheat flour. And somewhere I read rye flour helps your loaf retain moisture better. So this is optional. You don't have to do this. If you don't have rye flour, just skip this part. But I'm going to add 10 or so grams of rye flour. Just nothing real precise. That's good enough. And then you bring this total up to 450 grams with bread flour. I'm a big fan of the King Arthur bread flour. It's really consistent and just ends up with a nice loaf of bread. So 450 is what we're looking for. Oops. Alright. Now we'll get this all mixed in. And what we're doing is we're mixing in the flours, but we're not adding salt yet. We're going to let this rest for 20 minutes to half an hour before adding salt, and that is called, that period is called Autolyze. You're autolyzing the dough, and it's my understanding of it is you're giving the flour a chance to absorb the water before the salt gets in there, otherwise the salt will grab onto the water. So this lets the flour grab the water. Okay, after a certain point, it's just easier to use your hands. So just grab from the bottom over the top. And you just want to do this until there's no more dry flour in the bottom of the dish. This is what they call it's coming together in a shaggy mass. So that's good. We will cover and let sit for half an hour, and I'll be back. Okay, the half-hour Autolyze period is over, so now we're going to add the salt. For 1 loaf of bread, it's 9 to 10 grams of salt. Sprinkle that over. And 22 grams of water to help disperse that salt. And from this point on, you really just want to use your hands. Give them a wash. I'm going to mix this in, and then we begin the fermentation period. I used to just leave it in the same bowl because I'm lazy and I didn't want to clean another bowl, but I realized it really did work a lot better if it went into a clean bowl. So I've been doing that now. So we will transfer that over. I'm just trying to fold it around a couple times to make sure that salt gets all through the dough. And I have a edge scraper, hard plastic, so this really helps to get everything out. Okay, we're good. So now this will sit for a fermentation period, can be anywhere to 3 to 4 hours, and we will turn the dough every half hour or so in the meantime. So I let this first fermentation period go for an hour, and then I start turning the dough every half hour after that. So this is now going to sit here for an hour. Okay. Okay, it's been an hour, and tip is if you get your hand wet, it won't stick to the dough, or it'll stick less. So I'm just going around the bowl, grabbing from the bottom, pulling up over the top, and I'm going all the way around the bowl doing this. A lot of times I like to pick it up and just give it a couple folds too. You can see already how much the texture of the dough has changed. And back it goes. So I'm going to do that every half hour now for the next 2.5 to 3.5 hours until the dough feels light and really resists being pulled. I think you can see, you can even see it's starting to get bubbles in there. It's getting pretty light. You see a nice, another big bubble happening in there. So it's been 3 hours. I did add a pretty good blob of starter to it. So I'm going to take it out and start its bench rest. So before you shape the dough to put away, you give it a bench rest. And that helps you develop a better skin on the dough. A better skin will give you a better shaped loaf. So first you want to press out any big air bubbles so you don't have any big holes in your bread. It seems a little counterintuitive that you're squeezing out the bubbles, but you just don't want any huge bubbles happening in your bread and have big tunnels. And then you want to shape it up into a ball, gather up the ends. And what you want to do, keep your hand on the counter and give it a push. And what you're doing is, you can see when I push it, it's tightening the skin across the top. So if I do that again, you can see my hand is staying on the counter and I'm pushing it, and you can see it tightening over that way. So I just do that sort of in a series of circles to get a nice tight skin on the top. Bubble there. And now it's going to sit for half an hour, and this is called the bench rest. I'm going to give it a cover. and see you in half an hour. Okay, it's been half an hour. You can see it's spread out a little bit. That's okay. It's expected. So we are going to flip him on his back, put a little flour so it doesn't stick, and shape our loaf. So when I shape the loaf, I get it in a rectangle, more or less. Fold it up about a third. And you want to pull this, again, it's all about tightening the skin. So you want to pull it so it stretches it but not tear it. So I pull it and fold it over. Pull and fold over. And then it's kind of a tuck and roll. Got lots of big bubbles in there. Tuck and roll. So I'm just trying to tuck it in and trying to get a good, you know, tighter skin over the top of this guy. And that will help help it hold its shape. It'll also, when you score it, it'll help the loaf to open up and proof prettier. So I have my banneton. I put a dish towel in it and flip it over, and he goes. Pinch him up close a little bit. I always dust it with a little flour on the top. It's always kind of sticky. So he's getting folded up, and then I put this in the plastic bag, and this will go into the refrigerator overnight. And so it'll do its proofing in the fridge overnight. And that's it. Okay, today's tomorrow. I just pulled the bread out of the fridge. Blew up even more. I'm going to sprinkle both it and the peel with some cornmeal so it doesn't stick. And I also have, this is my cloche. It's the way you get a better crust on the bread when you have steam in the oven. So this I'll put over the bread to get a nice steam going right around the bread. Let's flip this out. So to score the loaf, you want to go very shallow angle, almost parallel to the loaf, but you really want to get under that skin. So you really want to get that lifted up there. And that'll give you better, they call it an ear, when that flips up. Just make a couple slashes. Alright, in we go. Heat out of the oven. The oven is at 475. And I'm turning it down to 450. So preheat it to 475. Once the bread goes in, turn it down to 450. And then that'll go with the lid on for 20 minutes. Minutes is up.